Well, next I'd like to turn to Clark Kooning. Clark is going to be with us every first Saturday of each month to talk about modeling with Clark. So Clark, I will turn it over to you, sir.
All right. If Dylan will allow me to share.
Yep, screen share is all set up and ready to go.
Thank you. Okay, come on here. There we go. How's that? Everybody see that?
Yep, we're golden.
Okay. So welcome to 15 Minutes with Clark. And when you, now let's see if I can operate the up and down here button. One of the things I always like to do, I always like to introduce myself to people. People don't always know me, or whenever somebody's on a show, they should always introduce themselves, because then it gives you a good idea who they were and what they've done in the past. And hopefully if they got some credibility. So I was the one of the last MNVPs for the overall NMRA. Several years ago, way back like 1986, I believe, I developed the Modeling with the Masters program for the NMRA and taught that for pretty well every year, or almost every single class we did, I was there. I've been the Niagara Frontier Region past president twice. I've been the NMRA Canada president once. I've been NMRA director for Canada on the board for several years. I've judged lots in the AP nationally and regionally and at singles. I was the vice chairman for Toronto in 2003. Some of you may know me from my my hosting days on Trainmasters TV from Model Rail Hobbyists. And I'm a regular on the Model Rail Radio podcast. I taught night school for several years at Adult Night Education. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine who was an MMR in Australia took my course, and actually so did several others, and taught model railroading at night school in other countries. So I was quite taken back with that. Currently model in several scales. I'm a rubber gauger. I have ON30, I have ON3, SN3. My big layout right now is HO. I do have some N scale T tracks, and I do have two ON30 display layouts, I'll call them. I live in Elliott Lake, Ontario, which I'll show you where that is in a minute. And I retired after 35 years of being a paramedic in the Toronto area and supervising as well. And that's where I live, way up here in Elliott Lake. If you're from my house to Chicago is about a 10-hour drive. To Michigan, to Detroit, it's about 8 hours. Just to the border from my house at the top of Michigan is a 2.5-hour drive. And if I was going to drive down to Toronto, it's a 6-hour drive. So I live right on the top of the North Channel, as they say. All right. So let's look at some quick tips and that, and to help you improve your modeling. I'm going to sort of run through them really quickly, because I think most of you guys are pretty experienced. So no need to sort of dwell on some points, but everybody can pick up something. So let's go. All right. One of the things I always say to people, use a sharp X-Acto knife. The worst thing you can do is sit down with a dull blade. And the reason is because you really tend to you push hard, and that's when the knife slips and you get cut. And I've seen lots of it, and I picked up even fellow modelers when I was working who had severe cuts, and I had to take them to the hospital. So change your blade. One of the great blades, a basic number 11 blade are fine, but the new series called the Z series are laser honed. And they are razor sharp. Now, I know a lot of people like to use scalpels and so forth, and so do I for a lot of instances. But these Z series blades or Z series blades are fantastic. All right, let's talk glues. Woohoo! Plastic cement. Plastic cement is not really a cement. It's a solvent. Plastic cement melts or dissolves the plastic surfaces, and as it evaporates, which happens fairly quickly, the plastic hardens again to form a strong bond. Now, a lot of you know that Tester's tube cement. And you know what, why that's so gooey and filled and strung out is because it's filled of plastic cellulite. And that's what makes it that gunk. What you really want to use in most cases is a true plastic or a liquid styrene cement. Testers is one that I really like, and Tamiya. Now, they do come in different viscosity, so we'll talk about it too. So upon evaporation, the styrene solidifies and the joint's complete. Remember, the amount of solvent is equal to the drying time. So if you really put a lot on, it takes a while for it to evaporate. Now, bonding styrene in parts, as I say, use a liquid type. Use a small 000 sable brush is important to apply the solvent. Not the big brush that comes in the big Testers bottles or even in the Tamiya. And the reason why you want to use the sable brush is that when you dip it in the solvent and you put it on your model, you don't have to clean it. You don't have to do anything. It will just evaporate off of that sable. Now, if you use something else, such as like a nylon brush, it'll eventually just evaporate because the solvent will eat that nylon and stuff. So just use a solvent or a sable brush, and after a while, you'll notice there's a little white powder on it. And just pull that powder off with your fingers. And the reason why there's white powder is because that is the little parts of styrene that have come up off the pieces of styrene onto your brush. And then as the liquid evaporates, those little molecules of styrene harden, and that's what's left, that little white powder. So just remember, there's different viscosities, such as this Tamiya stuff is really thin, and it runs like heck. Now, this hint I found from the guys Miles Hale and John Lawrence and Fran as well at several of our Among the Masters when we did DPM kits. This is the glue for DPM models, or that combination between, it's not really a plastic and it's not really a resin kit. And there's several out there for them. This Fowler Expert is fantastic. It will allow you to move a little bit. And then once it hardens, man, it is on there. Now, the big problem with this stuff is that little needle applicator. Keep it clean by using a little brass wire. I have a little brass wire all the time, and I can slide it down. Now, if it really gets clogged, you can be very careful. Just heat it up with a lighter, and it will melt. Okay, but this stuff is flammable, so be careful with it. But it is fantastic. Now, the difference between Fowler Expert and Fowler Super is just the speed of which dries. A lot of people use MEK or methyl ethyl ketones. I just stay away from it. This stuff is highly invasive. It really will leach into your skin. It's bad, nasty stuff. It is also very flammable, and even in the absence of a naked flame or anything, it can be a problem. So stay away from it. I know a lot of guys use it. Okay, AC super glues. Woohoo! Also, cyanotriolite. Most people are fairly familiar with them. They're fact-acting adhesives. They're basically industrial, medical, and household uses. I don't know if many of you know, but way back when, even in the field hospitals and in some of the conflicts that they had, they used super glue to patch soldiers up. But what it was really developed for was when they were doing at the beginning of heart transplants, and they would take the two arteries and put them together. They would have to suture around them. Well, what happened? They would leak, and then they'd have to wait, and and they got fed up with it. So what they found was that by putting the CA on it, or coming up with this glue, they put it on each end, and then basically glue the two ends of the arteries together. And then once it was secure, then they would suture it, and then they put another layer of the glue on, and it would seal that shut so it wouldn't leak. And that's why if you get any kind of moisture, you know, it's on your finger, you never want to touch it to your eye, or you know, you never want to, oh hell, the phone. So just be careful where you put it on. The abbreviation, of course, is CA, which is the industrial type of grade. All right, when kept unopened, you can put it in a fridge. It'll keep it for a longer shelf life. I won't say it will extend it for years, but it will extend for quite a while. Now, CAs are very moisture sensitive. So when you take it out of the fridge before you open it, let it basically come to a room temperature, because if not, when you open it, there'll be condensation in there, and that glue will become hard within a day. After opening, you should use it for 30 days. I always say, when you go to buy this stuff, buy it in the smallest quantities you can, because it will harden up, and buy 2 or 3 bottles that you don't open. Open containers should not be put back in the fridge. Okay. And then when you're using ACC, you can use an accelerator. I always laugh at this because, you know, before we would boil water for a hot dog, we put the hot dogs in and we'd wait and go, Jesus, what's taking so long? And then the microwave came along, we put it in for 30 seconds, and about 15 seconds, we go, what's taking so long? And so by using the accelerator, we can actually even make that bond even faster. And it's kind of a greasy stuff. Don't spray it on with the bottle sprayer. Get yourself an applicator, and it looks like I may have cut off the one part with this. On the end of this tool is a very small hole, and all you have to do is dip that into the accelerator, touch it to the part that or near the part, and the liquid will run out and instantly glue that part. Now you can make your own applicator, and I really should show a picture of this by just taking a big large sewing needle, stick it in the end of the dowel, and then grind off the tip. So basically you have a Y, and you can dip that into the accelerator, and it will come out via capillary action onto your model. So C8s are great for bonding very quickly. They'll do a large number of surfaces, but they have to be, the surfaces have to be really mating well, and you should always test fit them before you get in to achieve a good bond. Again, super glue comes in a variety of viscosities. Make sure you get the right one for you, and I'll tell you a little story about that later on. They can be finicky with respect to surface contact and coverage. Too much or too little can affect the bond. So you have to watch. You'll get a feel for it. Generally, super glues are not good for foams, foam plastic and stuff like that, unless it's specified on the bottle. So check it. Sinos or CA works good in tensile applications. If you have a shearing force on that, such as a coupler box being pulled sideways, you'll find that sometimes it will not hold, because you always see the guy on the commercial with the helmet attached to the steel girder, and he's basically hanging from it. That is just tensile. But if you were to push him from the side, he'd fall off, because CA glues do not like shear. They like just straight pulling apart. Okay. So good for projects, you know, they work really well. And again, just remember, there's no shear strength. CA is great for white metal kits. This is a little white metal kit I built in our Mowing with Masters class, and we put these together. They work great. You just have to make sure the two surfaces are very clean and bright and shiny when you put them together. We had one fella, I said, only use the thick CA for this. And the guy said, oh, I wouldn't use that crap. I use thin. And at the end of the project, I had to literally take an X-Acto knife and cut it out from his hand, because this stuff just runs right? So wood glues or polyvinyl acetate, probably the most common glues around. You know, we probably have it in your workshop already. Sort of one size does not fit all. There are different types of wood glue, and you can choose from. You know, most of the guys, we think of yellow glues and go from there, such as the Elmer's Carpenter glue. And it's kind of a good universal glue. You can do it for bench work, or you can use it for models. Nice stuff about this is that it's water-based, glues up very quickly, comes almost immediately tacky, so it holds better. And because when it dries, it becomes rigid, it's not flexible, then it's easier to sand. All right. So some wood glues can also be white and dry clear, so you have to check the labels. Generally, it sets in an hour, but takes 24 hours to be full strength. Craft glues. Now, this is where you have to watch. You know, water is a carrier. It makes an easy cleanup, and it's low toxicity, but boy, it really has to dry before there's any strength to it. You should always clamp it, and you shouldn't use it for any applications that are going to kind of require water resistance. Epoxy is generally two-part systems designed for high-performance bonding. As we all know, you have an A and a B generally, and mix them together. The biggest problem is most people don't mix them together, and they can range from a huge degree of flexibility and clarity, as well as the cure speed. So you just have to read the instructions. And one of the things about epoxy is they have great gap filling properties. So that works really well. Hot glue. Well, hot glue, great for scenery applications. The problem with hot glue is that it is hot and you tend to burn your fingers a lot. So I always keep a bowl of ice water around when I'm doing hot glue, especially for scenery. And it works really well. I have seen guys put together trestle bridges with hot glue. It goes together really fast. I won't say it looks the best, that's for sure. And never tell your friend's wife that he just bought a brand new brass engine and how's he liking it, because he could kill you. And that's it. That's 15 minutes with Clark.